Hi everyone, welcome to Cosplay Talks and All Things Nerdy. This is technically our first episode after our introduction episode, and we are Cosplay Talks, gears, chat, and tips for this episode. And you may have noticed that we are joined, or for the video listeners, you might notice we're joined by a couple of other people. So myself and iPhoto UK as your host as normal for the podcast, and we are joined also by Bigfoot Photos and BHC Photography. So yeah, guys, welcome on. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on. So
thank you for having us.
Yeah,
thanks for having.
No worries, guys. So I think we're going to kick this off with a little bit of an introduction from you both. Rob, do you want to start for us?
Yeah. So Rob, BHC Photography across all social media platforms. So just a little bit introduction to how I got into cosplay photography. Essentially, I went to, I think it was back when it was MCM Manchester, with one of my cosplay friends, infamous Tyler. Took some pictures on my phone of her, and she was like, "The composition's really good at this. You should try get your camera." I did. Essentially, about 2 weeks later, I went out and bought my first camera, and essentially practicing taking pictures on that. Went to some of the smaller local conventions, took pictures of my friends or the people that I was becoming friends with, and it just kind of escalated from there, from going to a couple of small ones when I lived up in Leeds, to going to shoot at MCM Manchester, MCM London. And I suppose it was kind of like, I just really fell into it. There was no real plan, because I was like in my early 30s the first time I picked up a camera, so it was never a cunning plan to start photography at an early age, learn how to do it, and then I went into cosplay photography. I went to a convention, I kind of met some people, realized that the geeky world was out there, and somebody said I should buy a camera, and I did. So peer pressure, I blame it all on peer pressure. That's how I got into cosplay photography. And then kind of like over the years, it's just escalated in terms of making friends, doing shoots at various conventions and with various cosplayers around the UK. Kind of like, I say, favorite experiences like doing cosplay shoots would be shooting with friends. Like, there's great times like shooting with new people, but when you shoot with your friends, you have that collaboration where everything is a lot more relaxed and you can bounce ideas off each other. You can have fun. You can do stupid stuff that turns out to work really well. Like, I'd say recently, favorite shoots have been like doing fantasy stuff. Obviously, I've become quite well known over the last couple of months for a couple of specific shots that I posted of Carla as her fantasy cosplay. So I'd say they've been kind of like great, because they've been a real chance to push the boundaries of my creative style that I've never really done as much before. In terms of that like fantasy setting, I've always kind of like stuck to like Star Wars and Marvel and that kind of thing, but being my main fandom in terms of what I enjoy is fantasy, so having the chance to really push that has been really great. So that's a bit about me.
Very nice. Good intro there. Obviously, gonna move over to Bigfoot, aka Gareth. Let's go for you, man. Let's get an introduction to you.
So, yeah, Bigfoot Photos. Bigfoot Photos 1912 on Instagram, TikTok, although there's not a lot there at the moment. But yeah, how I got into cosplay photography. My dad's always been big into photography, so there's always been cameras lying around the house. I've always enjoyed looking at what he's taken. Then went and got myself a camera. Didn't really use it, and then during COVID, as everyone else done, they were like, right, I need a hobby. So in my hour's walk, I went and I was like, I'll just take my camera, do some landscape and what have you, which is where the name Bigfoot Photos comes from. So I was out on a walk, and yeah, I just looked like anyone who's shot with me knows that I love climbing on stuff. So I was just climbing up trees, climbing up anything, going, right, let's get a slightly different angle here. And apparently I look like Bigfoot. So that's where the name comes from. The way I got into cosplay photography was as the world was opening up again and cons were happening. So I used to go to cons with my ex-wife, and one year she was like, bring your camera, because she'd look around the stalls for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours straight. As long as the con was open, she will walk around there and talk to them vendors. I can get around the shops in about 15 minutes and go, yep, I've seen what I need to see. That's me. I'm done. So it was like, right, what do I do for the next 6 hours? So she was like, bring your camera, have a go at shooting people, see what happens. Took my camera to my first con, which was Manchester MegaCon, and I was very much a newbie photographer. Would go up to cosplayers very sheepishly with my camera and go, can I have a picture? Quick take a little snap. No composition, no nothing. It was just like literally in a con hall. Yes, they do a pose and I just take a picture, and I was like, there we go, that was fun, and run off sheepishly and wouldn't exchange like social media and stuff like that. So I've learned over the years not to do that. But yeah, that was my very first con. Then the following year, I was like, that was fun, I'll do it again. I had looked a bit on social media about what to do at the cons, how to run shoots and what have you. So I was like, right, I'll do a booking system. So I didn't expect anything to come from it. Put a booking system out, and I think it took 2 days. 2 days later, that was it. I was fully booked, and I was like, this is a thing now. Okay, right. So yeah, it's just kind of like, because I see myself, I've only been doing it 2 years. I'm now going into my 3rd year. So I still see myself as quite a newbie photographer. So I'm still learning, still getting out there, but like it has kind of like massively snowballed from thinking 2 years ago I was running around a con hall, taking a quick snap and running away because people are scary, to now, like literally Manchester MegaCon last month, I put on social media, this is where I am, come and find me. And I literally stood there for 8 hours straight just pressing a button, which it was absolutely amazing. It's not for everyone, but if I've got a queue of people who just want me to press a button in front of them, I'm happy. I don't need food, I don't need drink. I will just sit there and press a button for 8 hours straight, and it's amazing. So yeah.
People are still scary though.
Pardon?
People are still scary though.
Oh yeah. It's a lot less scary if they come to you though. But yeah, what I enjoy shooting. So I've always said, those that know me, I'm a massive Lord of the Rings fan. So I always, if I know the fandom, I'll love it. I always try and add a little nichey thing into the picture, be it a special effect or something like that. But what I enjoy is more the passion for, I like working with people. I work in retail, I work with people all the time. I like working with people. So a shoot that, pardon me, comes to mind is Birmingham MegaCon at the start of the year. Someone I shoot quite regularly came up to me. They were like, I'm a Minecraft person. I was like, what's a Minecraft? I was like, right, no worries. But I noticed that I was like, tell me about the character. And I noticed she was holding this egg. And she was like, this is an egg. And apparently in Minecraft, eggs hatch and stuff like that. And that was it. I was like, boom, right, we're going to have this egg. And I'd done loads of like, right, I want you to cuddle the egg. We're going to do a forced perspective. I'm going to put it on the floor. And we're going to have a forced perspective. So the egg's in focus, then you're in focus. And yeah, I just then turn the entire thing around there. So that's what I enjoy about cosplay photography. It was something I knew absolutely nothing about. You talk to them about their fandom for about 30 seconds and see how passionate they are, and they'll just say something and you're like, boom, there we go. That's what we're doing. And yeah, it all develops from there. And yeah.
All right. Thanks, man. Thanks for the intro. Suppose we'd better talk about the subject a bit. I think it's supposed to what this episode's going to be about. So we've got multiple different topics in this one. So obviously we're going to do a nice little show and tell. We're all going to show a piece of work. So obviously from an audio perspective, we'll try our best to describe what is going on. From a visual, you'll obviously see. So we'll look at a bit of show and tell today as well. We've all picked out a couple of photos. A photo from our very first shoot versus a photo that we've taken in the last 6 months, and we'll go through and hopefully try and describe as much as possible for audio listeners from that point of view. We're also going to have a chat about photography gear this week as well. You know, bits and pieces that we can't do without. And please, God, don't want to say camera, because with that one should be very obvious that we need a camera. Then we're going to do
Lens.
okay, lens as well. Jeez.
You just use an iPhone. I mean, some people think they can do that these days.
Oh, yeah, can do. I mean, I went with a constant and did that, but hey, we'll get into that later. Tips and tricks, we're going to have a look at as well. And then we have a little bit of some, previously throughout the week, we did ask the audience for some questions. So we will rattle off a few questions there and answer them as best as we can. So, okay, have got any other words of wisdom there, Darren, before we kickstart show and tell?
I don't think so. I think we did our intros last week, so most people probably know enough about us by now. I think there'll probably a few things to go through as we go through the images, but let's crack on with the show and tell and see where this takes us.
So let's get technology working, sharing some images.
Yeah.
All right. Yep. So Rob, you're up first. This is your one here.
Yeah, so this is probably from the one of my first, if not my first, like location cosplay shoot with Tyler. Essentially, like pretty much most of my first shoots were with Tyler because she lived close by and she was the person that kind of like pushed me and encouraged me to get into photography and like start learning about it. But yeah, so it's one of our Suicide Squad. Harley, we were in the top of a car park and got her to hang from a pole, it was a very Harley Quinn type shot. Like I'm still like I never look back at these pictures and think, wow, that's awful. Like I still quite like the composition from the slight weird angle for Harley. I've always kind of liked shooting Harleys at slightly strange angles because I think it adds to the kind of like craziness that's always come from it. But it was a very like from an editing style, I was like very much kind of like I didn't really know what I was doing. I would just like make the reds a little bit redder, make the blues a little bit bluer, and it was all shot on like auto. It was back then like because I'd never had any formal training or didn't really know much about cameras at all. This was all shot in JPEG as well. It wasn't even shot on a raw file. So there wasn't a huge amount that I could have probably done to it anyway, had I known what I was doing. And it was edited on my phone rather than on any form of actual equipment because at that time, again, I didn't really understand anything about how to edit. And I was just like playing around and being like, what can I do? So it was shot on JPEG and edited on a phone. So I like the composition of it, but I look back at it now and just think, probably there was so much more that I could have done back then.
What was it shot on, Rob?
It was shot on a Nikon D3500, I think it was. Lens-wise, couldn't tell you. Probably the kit lens that it came with. It was just because I borrowed one of my friends at work was a photographer, and I talked to him about the fact that I was getting into photography, and he'd like lent me like a really, really old Nikon DSLR, and it just confused the hell out of me because it was just like, I'm like, this has got so many buttons. It looks so confusing. It was full frame, but it was quite an older one as well. So it didn't have like yeah. So I went for something that was more of I just Googled like Nikon intro cameras and found one that was in my price range, which was the D3500 or 3200, depending on, I can't remember which one it was, but they were the same camera, just one generation up. But yeah, so it was just like, I kind of grabbed it and was like going out, trying to see what worked and what didn't work. And like, again, I've always been particularly lucky in the people that I've worked with, the fact that the people, my regular collaborators, have always either, whether they've been new to it or people that have been at it a long time, have been innately great at posing. So I've never, when I first started working with Tyler, she knew how to pose. So I didn't have that initial pressure on me to direct somebody while I was learning actually how to do the mechanical side of things, which was really good. And then as I got more confident, in terms of what I was taking, I was able to then start directing more to a style that I liked as well. So it's kind of like it was a good learning process with somebody who knew what they were doing, so that it took that pressure off me from
sure.
having to tell them what to do, as well as try and work out what the hell I'm doing with this new piece of kit that I'd never even considered picking up 6 months ago.
It's just allowed you to kind of focus more on the photography side of things instead of bits and pieces. But yeah, all right. So we'll move on to your next one, which is the one that was done in the last 6 months. I'll let you go through this one. I'm just going to turn the light on because I've gone pitch black.
So I think this one's been seen quite a lot by quite a few people. This is Carla's picture of OC D&D elf character. And I think it's probably one of the best examples of how far I've come as a photographer. Like, just from looking at it now, like the lighting side of things, like back when I first started, I wouldn't have understood how to push the light, get that really great golden hour sunset behind her, or how to light her face so that she wasn't either too dark or too light against that background. So there was a lot of, like, it's a great, for me, looking at it compared to the one of highlights, like how far I've come in terms of my editing style, like the color grading, also like using lighting as well. Like when I first started with highlight, flash was a word that I didn't understand. It was a thing that popped up at the front of the camera when I pressed a button. Didn't know how to turn it on and off, or when to use it or when not to use it. Didn't even know that there was such a thing as an external flash back then, or anything like this. Whereas this one, I was like using the flash to light the subject, but not lose the background and things like that. It was, for me, like the perfect combination. Again, really lucky with the person that I worked with in this in terms of Carla, because it was an OC character, like it is her, so she understands the character really well. She understands how to pose it, and it's a character that we've discussed for months. We did another version of this character earlier on in the year, and we shot another variation of it as well. So overall, it's like, I think it just shows the difference in where you can come as a photographer in terms of understanding light and colors better. I think the composition of this as well works really well. The angle of the sword, where she's looking. I think that was a big thing for me as well, as I learned over the years, is that characters don't need to look at the camera. I think when I first started, there was a lot of make eye contact with the camera, look at the camera, let's get that. Whereas as I got more experience and understood how to direct more and understood what my style of photography is and how to compose things a little bit better, that looking away can sometimes have a much more profound effect than looking at it. So I think this shot is just kind of like something that I would quite happily print off and have on my wall as an example of where I've come to in terms of my photography style and editing style. So I think not long after this, or before this, I asked on my Instagram story, like, what am I most well known for in terms of like my editing styles. Like somebody was like, "Oh, you do really warm tones." I was like, "No, I don't." And then I edited this picture, and I was like, "Oh yeah, maybe I can't really say I'm not well known for the warm tones anymore." Yeah. So yeah, this one was like, I think it's just a favorite picture of mine that I've it's just up there as one of my favorite ones. And as I said in my intro earlier, it's fantasy, which for me is a big thing because I've always loved fantasy. And yeah, there's just, it was a perfect storm of the person I was working with, the location, sunset hitting just right, because earlier on in that day it'd been so overcast, and it was like we weren't expecting the sunset to be as good as it was. but then to get the sunset in and get it at the right angle to not have it completely overpower Carla, and also then when I was editing it, to get the editing style how I wanted it. It was just one of those where you come out of it and you're like, do you know what? I've done a good job. I'm quite happy with this.
Definitely, man. This is.
And am I right in thinking you still edit on an iPad as well?
Yeah, I use Lightroom.
I think that's something else that's probably quite important to mention here, is that a lot of people, when they think of sort of high quality, high-end cosplay shots that they're done on fancy computer with loads of different software, this was done on an iPad Pro, which is a very capable piece of kit, but doesn't quite have software-wise all the bells and whistles of full Photoshop, full Lightroom. So I think that's probably worth mentioning here, that you don't necessarily have to have a $2,000 gaming computer and massive monitors and all the rest of it. You can edit essentially with what you have around you. I mean, I think you said your first shot was edited on your phone. This is edited on an iPad, and the results are stunning. So I think it's just sort of it just hits home really for people that you don't have to go out there and spend an absolute ton on gear, particularly from the editing side.
No, I fully agree with that, and I agree. I think as well, it's something that I think I learned as I over the years. I have bought gaming PCs, and I was like, I've tried to move away from the iPad Pro onto a gaming PC to do my editing, and it just didn't feel right for me. And I think that's a big thing. I think I probably might move to a MacBook Pro at some point, but just that's because I like the Apple ecosystem. But I think a lot of it is around what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily using the fancier stuff. It's shooting and editing with gear that you know and you're comfortable with, and are going to get the results. So like, and I think as well, it's also understanding the composition, lighting, and where you're shooting, so that you don't necessarily need to make a huge amount of tweaks in.
Exactly. If you can get the majority right, or as much as you can right in camera, it can save you a lot of hassles later on.
But again, that just comes with all of us know, just comes down with time and understanding of what best suits you, and like what
exactly. It's personal choice, isn't it?
Is there's no right or wrong when it comes around to taking a photo or editing. Well, there is and there isn't. But within the sense of this is, I'll get into it more with my ones in a bit, but you learn every time you take a photo, every time you do your settings or something like that. If it didn't work that time, you go, yeah, it didn't work there, but exactly. I know what I did wrong. I know what I need to improve on, and then the next time I do it, it will be different. So it's trial and error for most of it. And if you're comfortable editing on an iPad versus a computer, it's down to personal preference, down to the style that you prefer at the end of the day. And if it works for you, and it blatantly does, because you can see it here, this is one outstanding photo. I love it. Every time I see it, it blows me away.
Thank you. I do appreciate that, and I agree. I think it's confidence in your own style. I think that's something that comes after a good couple of years especially with cosplay photography. I think you spend a lot of time when you first start looking at what's out there, trying to find what's you and what you're confident and comfortable shooting, editing.
Yeah.
Because there's still times where I'm like, I'm going to do these really big, massive composite edits with like lightsabers and laser cannons and ships, and I'm like, that's not what I'm good at. And I'm like, and sometimes I just have to reel myself in and be like, and that's okay. It's not everybody is going to be great at every element of it, and being like confident, and it's something might come on to later, but it's also being that confident sometimes at conventions when somebody comes over and says, will you shoot this character? And you talk to them, and you're like, actually, can I do this the justice that they want? And produce an edit that's not just a point and shoot edit. Is it going to be something that, and I think that's something that again comes with confidence, is going, I just being willing to say somebody's like, I can shoot you, but it's maybe not going to be like the bells and whistles you might get from somebody else. And I think that's again a confidence thing of just saying, I'll do my best, with what I've got, but this is what I'm good at, and I think that's something that comes with time and experience within working with people and getting to know your own style.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you very much, Rob. And we'll
Okay.
move over to Bigfoot. It's now your time to shine.
Yeah, so this is one from MegaCon Manchester, the year that I said that I took a picture and ran away. So this is Kate, who I've always said is one of my very first fans. So I shot this on the Sunday, and ever since then she's always been one of my big supporters. Always, every con she's like, "Oh my God, where are you? I need to come and find you." And if she's not at con, she'll always send people my way. So much appreciated. But yeah, I chose this picture because it's very much showing what it was at the start. So I had no idea what I was doing. So I was like, right, white background, that'll do me. Stand in front of the white background. From there, so me and Switch, Tom, always have this discussion of aperture. So I'm always like, I love my bokeh. I love my my wide open shots, and I'm like, I'm gonna get as close to you as I can, and I'm gonna have a very small amount of it in focus, and I'm gonna try and make it dramatic and what have you. So I think that this kind of like shows, even right at the start, that's what I enjoyed doing. That's what I done. I was straight away like, right, point the arrow over my shoulder, and I'm gonna get the arrow out of focus, and I'm gonna try and get you in focus. But yeah, as great as the picture is, again, I think it shows where I started. So first thing you notice is the wristband there. When I look back at it, I'm like, oh, that wouldn't happen nowadays. If only more cons would have lanyards. But hey ho. And then again, like you can probably notice, I've just discovered vignettes. So I'm like, I'm gonna have the strongest vignette in the world. And yeah, I feel like I've kind of like, my style's a lot more subtle now. I feel like I now know less is more kind of thing, although it looks like it's more. I've probably spent a lot more time editing that one than I do on ones now, because I try and capture a lot more in camera. But yeah, again, it was good fun. Always enjoy shooting with Kate. Always a good laugh. But yeah, so that's my first. Again, like Rob was saying, there's nothing wrong with the shot. I still like the shot, but looking at it now, I'm like, oh my God, I could have done so much more with that. But again, you learn, you move on.
Very nice. And then let's move on to shot in the last 6 months.
Yeah, so I think most people knew this was coming. So yeah, this is kind of like my proud moment. So I always use Manchester as my anniversary. So this shot, Tom was shooting with Jonesy. I think if that edit, if the spiral edit wasn't there, I think Tommy's actually in the shot. Hey, if you got people in the background, just add a big spiral in. It's easier than photoshopping them out of it. But yeah, so this shot, so Tom was shooting with Jonesy, and I'm not sure if you can call it sniping. I was doing behind the scenes shots.
I was sniping. I think on this one I was sniping.
I think we were both having fun. We were both doing behind the scenes while shooting. It was a nice little trio. It was quite fun to do. But yeah, this was literally end of the day, kind of like you're knackered. You're thinking of your bed. You're like, right, I need to go home. I need to get some food. I haven't ate since 6 o'clock this morning. And it was just kind of like Tom was shooting, and I just saw the shield and the helmet, and it brought me back to Endgame and how that was kind of like the end of the journey. So for those that know me personally, I've gone through quite a lot in the since January. a lot of things have ended and it feels like a new beginning. So going forward, I feel like, so my first year of cosplay photography was experimental. Second year is kind of like growing, and I feel like I'm coming into my stride now in my third year. So yeah, it felt like a lot has been changing, a lot has been developing in the last 3 or 4 months kind of thing. So it felt like me moving away. So I quite often like to reflect my personal life in some of the shots that I do. So again, another one I shot with Max back in Birmingham that had a lot of, he never knew, no one ever knew, but that picture had a lot of personal feelings from me, and I put a lot of myself in the picture that no one would know. And again, this one is the same, where I released it and I didn't really kind of like talk about it, but it holds a lot of personal feeling to me, which is the reason I picked it, because it feels like me moving into my third year of cosplay photography. I've done weddings now and I'm moving on with my photography, and it's me moving on, leaving the past in the past and moving on for the better. But yeah, Jonesy is absolutely amazing to work with, and it was one of them where as soon as as soon everyone loves to do it, get home from a con, and you're like, right, I'm going to pick one picture, and that picture is getting edited. So yeah, I ended up coming home, ditched the night out. So yeah, I came home and I was like, this is the edit, and I just sat there till 1 o'clock in the morning. I was like, this is the one, this is the one. And yeah, we released it the next day, and yeah, it, not quite as big as Rob's, but for me, it kind of flew up a little bit, and I was like, yeah, this is the picture. This shows what I can do and what I like to do. I like to add a little bit and tell a story with a picture.
Definitely. There's definitely a symbolic photo there for you, man. Because obviously I know a bit more about it than a lot of everyone does, but no, it's very good. And I suppose let's now move over to the main man himself. Let's move over to iPhoto UK.
Yeah.
Rocking it even back then.
So this was from 2012, from my first ever cosplay shoot. I started on a Canon EOS D60, not the 60D, the D60, sort of back in 2006. Before this, I'd recently changed to 550D Canon, and this was shot on that with the Tamron 17-50 f2.8. The lady in the shot, Charlotte, was someone I was shooting with quite regularly, mainly sort of fashion, lingerie, portraiture. And she said to me one day, we got chatting about movies and stuff, and I said I was a huge fan of Sucker Punch. And she's like, I've got this Sucker Punch outfit, would you want to shoot it? And I'm like, yeah, I've never really shot that before, but let's give it a go. I was fortunate at the time that I had access to a really cool location. It was an old section of the old Pirelli factory in Burton. There was a charity that I used to work with that occupied the very, very ground level warehouse section. But there was this huge part of the site that they didn't use, that no one had access to. But because I worked with the charity, I could use it whenever I wanted for shoots and things like that. So I went up there, and we found this old ladder up there. I was stood up there at the top of this rickety old ladder that was probably older than me. For anyone that knows me, I don't do heights, I don't do ladders. So here's me stood at the top of the ladder with my camera like shaking. There was no flip out screen on the camera, so it was like trial and error judgment to get the shot. Lighting wise, it was shot with a Canon Speedlight, just on a cheap sort of fold up softbox on a stand, just lit from the right hand side. There was some natural light coming in through that side as well, so just use that to emphasize the lighting, and then edited in Lightroom. So this, like I say, this was shot at like what was it, f2.8 ISO 400, and it was shot at 50mm on the Tamron at 200ths of a second. So yeah, not too high on the ISO, which was good. So 550D was terrible for noise. But yeah, I loved it. Did a few more shoots with Charlotte over a period of about 12 to 18 months, probably 2 years. Then probably around about 2016, I was a member of some sort of networking model shoot groups, and I met someone who is now a friend called Olivia. She went by Lolita Ward at the time. We shot a couple of times at the networking event, started to do different out cosplay shoots. We did a lot of Harlequin stuff. And then in 2017, she was like, I really think you should come to MCM with me. So went to a first MCM, and that was it, really. Just loved it from there.
I got sidetracked. I was too engrossed listening to the story.
Right. So this was a tough choice for me, to choose an image from the last sort of 6 months that I'm really proud of. I've shot with some amazing people over the last however many years I've been doing this, a lot of which I now call friends. Last few years, a lot of people know have been pretty tough for me. It's been a tough journey, losing both parents and various other things. It's been a real strain on the mental health. And then from like the start of this year onwards, I really hit sort of rock bottom. Decided to get some help, and that was the best thing I've ever done. From then on, I kind of almost found a new lease of life, really. Just the way I saw myself, the way I saw my work, the way I wanted to push myself. I'd already applied for Volta in Italy, back sort of towards the latter part of last year. Had no idea. I really didn't think that I would get approved for the event. It's quite, I don't want to say elitist, that's probably the wrong term. Some people will probably say that. But they are very selective about who they allow at their events. It's a photo con, so it's not a convention as such, but it is just cosplayers, photographers, videographers, and people take assistance and whatnot. And people come from all over Europe, both cosplayer and photographer. And I got an email in November, December time, saying that I've been accepted. And I was like, shit, okay, we're doing this then. At that point, I'd never even been out of the UK. I'd never been abroad. So for me then, I had to put together this thing in a country that I'd never been to, never been abroad, shooting with people that I'd never met, never spoke to. So I got planning some shoots, and Mila in the shot was one of the people. From the list of cosplayers and the shots that people have posted in the portfolios, her work really stood out. She said she was cosplaying Jinx from Arcane. Jinx, I'd never seen Arcane, I'd never played League of Legends, but the Jinx character was a character that I was starting to associate with a little bit more, knowing a little bit about the character and reading more and more as I arranged the shoot. I started to kind of associate with some of the mental health things that go on with Jinx, and I thought, let's do this. So we shot in one of the locations at Volta in Italy, which is the FAIS abandoned factory. Really popular location over there, but it's got so many different sections to it. It's huge. And we found this section. Thought, yeah, this really fits the character. So this was taken with my Panasonic Lumix S5. So I moved back to full frame after being micro four thirds for quite a few years. So December last year, I moved to full frame. And this was shot with the S5 and the Sigma 85mm 1.4 DGDN. stunning lens, probably one of my favourites, if not my favourite lens. So this was lit with about 8 lights, I think. We used an AD100 Pro as a key light, just set on a weak flash setting. And then I got a Rotolight Neo 3 Pro to provide some colour flash from the left-hand side through a doorway. And then the rest of the colour in the background is provided by a selection of tofu lights, so these sort of things. And Falconized 7s, which are they're the 2 lights that are always in my bag, no matter where I go. Small, light, portable, great for sort of creating atmospheric shots. And we took the shot. Mila's cosplay was on point. Her poses were on point for the character, and it really set the mood. As soon as the back camera shots, we were like, yeah, we've nailed it with that shot, and we just felt that it really fit the look and the mood of the character from the show. And it actually inspired me to come home and watch Arcane, which I watched the first series and was absolutely hooked, and that's led on to a few other things, doing some shoots later this year. But yeah, Volta for me was a challenge. It pushed me way out of my comfort zone. New country, new people. There were 1 or 2 people at Volta that I knew. Fortunately, there were a couple of other photographers. So Amy Acoustica Tog and her partner. There was also Carlos Adama. He was out there. Jonathan Chan, Satin Dress Photography. They were all out there as well. So it was good to have a few other people out there that I knew. I took an assistant with me as well. He was a long-standing friend, local to me. And that really helped. I think without that, it probably would have been a bit more of a struggle. But even so, it was really pushing out of my comfort zone, and finding that I could create results like this has really inspired me to go on and continue to push out of my comfort zone. And I think this year I've probably produced some of, if not the best work of my career so far. But yeah, this was one of the shots I think that really started that push. And I think that probably, for that reason, it's probably one of my favourite shoots so far. A lot of the shoots from Volta come close, and there's been some other shoots like 1 or 2 of the Secret Con events this year, like the Bunker shoot that I did with Captain Tempest Troy as his Weapon X. That also comes close to probably being one of my favourite shoots. But yeah, I think this probably stands out, just edges it.
Definitely. And then we've got one more for Darren to kind of go over.
Oh, crikey. Yeah. So this is from 1994. Yeah, I'm really that old. This was from my first ever studio shoot. It was actually at college. We had a very basic studio at college, quite spacious. This was shot on 35mm film, developed and processed by me in the lab at college, and then printed using a variety of different processing and printing techniques. So rather than sort of printing it straight onto normal photographic paper with normal chemicals, we'd been experimenting at that point with lithium processing, so processing sort of clear sheets of film and making positives from that. So I'd read about a process of using those chemicals with sort of artistic museum archival photographic paper to create an interesting look. And what it does is it distorts a little bit of the edges to give it a softer look. I'd already shot a very shallow depth of field anyway to get a close up on the eye. I'm also a bit of a bokeh whore, to be fair. I'm not going to lie. So shot using 35mm, just a couple of studio lights, and then process using this process. And that's just a straight scan, so there's no editing on that. There's sort of yellowy, warm tones. That's all straight from the printing processes. And yeah, it was interesting. It kind of, there was no Photoshop. Well, we had Photoshop, but everything had to be scanned in, and if we wanted to do it, it was a very long, laborious process. So, everything had to be right, pretty much in camera. And then you could do things like this to just experiment and mix it up a little bit. So it was a lot more difficult back then.
Stunning shot still as well. Okay, so I think it's now my turn. This is one of the things I was mentioning about earlier. It was a bit of a learning curve for me on this one, but it's still one of my favorite shots from the very first sort of con that I went to as a photographer. So this would have been, I believe it was MCM October 2022. I was mixed between doing cosplay and photography. This was on the Sunday, so I cosplayed Friday and the Saturday, and decided I'll bite the bullet and start trying to see if I can do some photography while I was at the convention and stuff like that. So I got into this bit. The guy that's playing Joker, Mark, spent most of the weekend with him. Absolutely cracking lad. But his Joker was definitely, at the time, was one of the best Jokers I'd seen and I worked with. And then we've got Terry as well, who obviously Darren knows well. I think everyone knows Terry very well, to be honest. And his famous John Wick, he kind of just came out of nowhere. This wasn't a planned shoot. This wasn't a planned pose or anything. He just came out of nowhere, pulled a funny face, pulled a pencil out on Joker, and I just was stood there at the right time and I just took a photo.
Nice.
It just so happened to work. But this is back in the time where I was going through learning different techniques, different things and bits and pieces in regards to photography. And then I got into the habit of obviously lowering my f-stop way down. And then that's why you can kind of tell that Terry's a little bit out of focus. But even though he is out of focus, I just feel there's just something about this shot that I still love, even though there's errors in my half. I look at it back now and go, okay, I knew the mistakes that I had made from a photography point of view, but still, I absolutely love the shot. It just sits and resonates with me. It's one of the very first ones I've done at MCM. It was a lot of fun. And then obviously I was going through a time here, was trying to figure out what it is that my style and what it is I like sort of dark, sort of bits and pieces like that, more sort of like the gothic-esque bits and pieces, and I also do like vibrant color. But I think I was learning like Photoshop and Lightroom at the time, so I was playing around with bits and pieces and just kind of playing with the different settings and what things did, and I was just trial and error. I got to a point where I was like, oh, I actually really like this. Let's play with this. Let's get it here, and then I kind of settled up. I look back at it now, I probably could do something different, and it would be a completely different image, but I still look at it and go, no, I really love this shot as one of my first ones I did, for sure. Probably a little bit too sharp now I look at it, but anyhow, it sits with me as a reminder of bits and pieces that I could definitely improve on over time, for sure. And then I'll move to my next one. So this is one of a shot that was taken at a secret con over in June at the prison. It was a bit of a toss-up with this last one, because it was another one I absolutely love. Of a friend as the Punisher in the cell. It was one of them, a bit like what Gareth said earlier. You rush home, you want to edit a photo. The one I did take and was going to put in here was Punisher one with him sat in a cell, sat in a chair, just being beaten up sort of look. I was like, I just couldn't toss up between this one and that one. And I think there's just something about this one because it's down in the horror section of the prison over in Gloucester. Obviously, the cosplayer here knew her character was a bit of a mixture of her own bits and pieces. One of my first shots of the day, I think, as well. And because we were in that horror section, I wanted to give it a little bit more of that dark, horroristic sort of vibe to it, and just that creepy element. Definitely fits within my niche at this point. But I think I sat there and I edited this, and I was just like, do you know what? I love the set of photos that came out of this one I edited. It was just really good, in my own opinion. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to edit, and just speaks to the whole vibe of it, really. I think some of my best work, like Darren saying, for him, comes out of Volta. Some of my best stuff comes out of SecretCon. Part of the reason why I love that event so much, because you work with some amazing cosplayers around the place, and just the collaboration point is just on point, and you just can sometimes make some fantastic bits and pieces that sometimes you just can't quite do at a conventional con. So I think that was why this one for me stands out, and it was just a play around with bits and pieces. What could we do? What can we find? Oh, this looks good. Let's do this, and let's play around with this idea, let's play around with that idea, and especially that collaborative point of view with the cosplayer. And we just made something here, and it just worked. And it's my last one for non-cosplayers wanting to go up with against Darren as well. So this is one of my very first boudoir style shots, not taking that con or anything like this. And for me, this is something I wanted to trial and error for quite a while. So this is my other half, this is my partner. I did get permission to use this photo, so she is very well aware that this photo is being used. So permission has come. But I wanted to show this off because for me, I was still finding that niche, but it was also in the point where I was getting a lot more comfortable with my style and getting a bit more engaged with what it is that I was kind of looking for in my bits and pieces. And my style has completely changed a little bit since then as well, but for a shot away from a Comic-Con and doing something a bit different, in a different vibe and whatnot, this is just one that I just loved and stood out to me when I did something a little bit different from a cosplay perspective. But yeah, so that's my part, and I'll stop sharing. So there you go. There's our show and tell section of this episode. Suppose I'll let you. Do you want to do the next bit, Darren? We can.
Yeah. So just want to. I think we all touched on it briefly a little bit, but we just want to have a bit of a chat to the guests first of all about your favourite conventions and locations for cosplay photography. Where are they? What makes these spots sort of special for you? What the biggest challenges you face as a cosplay photographer, and how do you overcome them with, your different techniques and from a technical or personal perspective? So, yeah, we'll keep to the same order. Rob?
Conventions, SecretCon, obviously, is like, it's for a non-convention convention. It's my favorite. It's like you get the chance to work in locations that you wouldn't necessarily be able to work in, and work with people that you wouldn't necessarily get the chance to work with, because at a normal convention, people are in and out looking at stalls, going to panels, doing all that other convention-y stuff. So you might, you're going to miss people because, you're shooting, they're doing other stuff. Whereas SecretCon, obviously, you get the chance to, literally, that's why you're there. You're there to take pictures of people, and it's a lot easier to meet people for that. And the venues are always great. Like, I think I've been to everyone. The prison, I still remember the first time walking into the prison, because I don't live that far from Gloucester. It's somewhere that I've seen advertised for stuff, and it was like I'd never really had the confidence to go to the photography meet there, because it was all very much people I didn't know. And whereas SecretCon was run by people that I knew, and there was a lot of my cosplay friends were going, so I was like, yeah, let's go. So for me, SecretCon has done a lot for me in terms of not just photography wise, but building up a network of people to shoot with and work with. So yeah, in terms of that, that is great. In terms of maybe a more standard convention, I'm going to say probably Birmingham. So whether it's MegaCon or MCM, I love shooting around the NEC from a just standard convention point of view. I've got some of my favourite shots down by the lake. Absolutely adored shooting there. I think it was last winter. Cosplayers not so much, because I seem to have quite a few cosplayers and not very many clothes stood out there when it was -1 or -2 getting shots. and they were like, "Can we hurry this up?" It's like, just one more shot, just one more shot, just one more. But I did get some amazing shots from a variety of different genres there. So for me, like, that is like really important. It's one of my favorite standard conventions to shoot at because it's just got a bit more variety than MCM in London or MegaCon in Manchester, just because I just like having that lake background for me really works. Out of con shoots, location wise, I'd say two. One, forests. Give me a forest. You can shoot pretty much any genre in a forest because every genre at some point goes into a forest, and it is really awesome. But also city centres, like probably when I was really kind of like post-COVID, like pre-COVID, I'd started to get into it at like cosplay photography. I started to go into big conventions, meeting people, but I didn't really do a lot outside of conventions with people that I didn't know. But then I started working with Nomity, and we started shooting around Cardiff a bit more, and kind of like that really helped build my confidence a bit more in terms of like just being able to find things that are interesting to shoot with people and characters in just the everyday world, rather than saying I'm going to go and set up a shoot location here and shoot this character in this way. It's like literally one camera, one light, cosplayer. Let's walk around the city centre and just go like, right, that looks cool. Let's shoot there. Right, that looks cool. Let's shoot there. So, and again, it was one of those ways of like building networks with people and shooting that. So I've done it a little bit before COVID, but this kind of like, it really pushed me to learn more about photography, and because you have to be more adaptable because it changes. You can go from like one spot to another spot within 10 minutes walk, and it's completely different. So I'd say city centres and forests for me are those. Some of the biggest challenges as a cosplay photographer for me, it was lighting has always been my biggest challenge. Like when I first started out, I was pure natural light. I would not shoot flash. It took me a long time to be willing to shoot flash. Mainly because I was scared of it, and I'd used it a few times, and like I just couldn't get my head around it. I was watching, I think it was probably just whatever the MCM before COVID was, so I think it was October 2019. I was shooting in the car park or something, and I was watching some of the guys like using their flashes, and they had like 2-3 lights, and then I was seeing the results. I'm like, how the hell do you do that? I'm like, I can't. I was looking at it, and my brain just couldn't compute how they did it. And then again, post COVID, it was just getting that going like, right, I want to take my photography to the next level. I can't keep doing what I'm doing. If I want to do that, I need to start learning new techniques. So it was pushing myself to do that. The other biggest challenge, I would say, was from, again, a new photographer starting out. My first MCM, I didn't really know anybody. I kind of like last minute decided to go, and I was like, I'm going to go to this fun. I'm going to reach out to some people that I seen online that they started following and say, can I shoot with you? And like, I think the biggest thing that overcame that was there was literally one person who kind of like changed my whole mentality. So I got down to London, and I didn't know anybody, and I sat in the Starbucks at MCM London, as most photographers do at some point, needing a very strong caffeine hit. And I've been talking to Wolfie online, Sitting Wolf Cosplay, about doing shoots, and literally she came and just tapped on the window, waved at me, and was like, let's go, like, we wanted to shoot. And she's like, and she started talking to me, and I was like, there's this person who I don't really know, who doesn't know me, and in my head I'm like, I was a very new photographer, I'd be doing it less than a year, but is like saying, come on, let's go shoot, like, and has made that effort. And like, for me, that kind of like turned me from I'm going home in half an hour because this is all way too much for me. I don't know anybody. Nobody's going to want to shoot with me. To this person who, again, you've spoken to briefly online, but like she, like the way that she talked to me in that, both online and in those first moments. And to be honest, it was just that knocking on that window and looking excited to see me. And for me, I think that was my biggest challenge as somebody who struggles with social anxiety anyway. Having somebody just go, I'm looking forward to working with you, was like, my God, that is, when you get that, and I'm sure we've all had it, that hop of thinking, okay, people actually do want to work with me. They're not just being polite. And yeah, so I would say getting me into photography was Tyler, but for actually that moment where I was like making that decision about whether or not I was going to stay at MCM London, which then turned out to be like my proper introduction to meeting other cosplay photographers. If Wolfie hadn't knocked on that window, I probably would have been like, see you later, I'm sorry, got back up to Leeds and never picking up my camera again. So I'd say, yeah, challenges for me were overcoming my own barriers. And I think that's, for me, like the biggest challenge that most photographers will have, is getting out of their own heads and having that belief in themselves to try new things and talk to new people.
Gareth, you're next.
So yeah, favorite con, obviously we're all going to say it, Secret Con. It's all hail the Darren. Oh.
Don't forget,
and the rest of the team.
And the rest of the team. Of course, we can't forget you all. But yeah, it's so relaxed. Like I said, I'll go to a con and I'll sit there for 8 hours and I'll shoot whoever stands in front of me. But obviously at a con, you've got panels, you've got shots, you've got X, Y, and Z. So it doesn't always happen. But again, that's what I enjoy doing. I enjoy standing there with my camera. So to have an event where that is what you are doing, there's no other choice. And again, the locations are just ridiculous. So I've only been 2 so far. So Magna last year, literally I spent the entire day. So there was obviously anyone who went, there was no signal in there at all. So I had arranged shoots. We had talked about locations, but we hadn't decided where to meet. We were like, we'll sort that out on the day. And then we turned up and you were like, I have no signal. I have no idea where we're meeting. So I spent the entire day like over a water or fire or something at the other end of Magna. And I'd finish my shoot and I'd be like, awesome, right, I have 10 minutes. I'd then leg it across that walkway to the front, quickly have a quick nicotine hit while I'm there messaging my next booking going, I am outside, where are you? And then I'd bomb it back in. And yeah, it was just such a great day. And I can't wait till March when we're going back again. And then again, my second one was prison. I missed out on bunker because it wasn't really my style. But then I saw some of the pictures and I was like, oh no, I'm wrong. I'm so wrong. I was like, yeah, I was like, bunker, not really. And then you see it and you're like, oh no, that just looks. So now, yeah, if any doubts that I ever have in a location that you guys pick, I'm now like, don't be stupid. They have picked this location. Yeah, just go. They have picked this location. And again, it's the people who go. Everyone's there to have fun and do some incredible shots. So yeah, the entire, now weekend, not just day, we've now got the whole weekend. It's just so much fun. But yeah, going forward, I think I'll do more like prison, which was no bookings, just grab me and let's go. And yeah, some of the best stuff can come from that.
Absolutely.
One shot that comes to mind is one that I got with Holly. She literally just grabbed me. She was like, let's do a shoot. And I was like, right, no worries. I've been walking past the shower all day and seen people shooting in there. But it was always people stood in the middle of the room. So I was like, right, let's go in there. Let's see what we can do. And immediately I saw that the tiles were just so reflective. And I was like, right, I want to get reflections. Let's try and use this room slightly differently. And yeah, amazing model, Holly. We just went in there and she completely trusted me. She just went, I'm just going to lean against the easiest shoot ever. I'm just going to lean against the wall and you just tell me which directions to move my head. I'm not going to move the rest of my body. But yeah, it was, absolutely amazing. And again, the diversity you can get from any location that Secret Con pick is absolutely amazing. In terms of cons, so again, I'm going to be a bit biased. Again, I've not been on the scene too long, and I feel like Manchester MegaCon is my little baby. That's where I went before I started cosplay photography, and again, it's my home. It's my yearly anniversary. and it's the different locations you've got. So again, because with it being in an old train station, you go down to the car park, you've got all the tunnels there. So you can get one thing there. You can go to my favourite location. You can go to the fountain. You got nice little flowery pits there. A location that I discovered this year, Catherine showed to me. If you walk literally about 30 seconds around the corner, there's this big wall of graffiti. So you've got a kind of like punky vibe there. Yeah, it's just further down the canal. I've called it now. It's the water fountain. About 2 years ago, you'd have about 2 photographers down there. Everyone is now down there.
Yeah.
Now I've discovered this one, and a couple of people shot there over the weekend. I've already called it the next year. That's going to be packed. That's going to be.
I need to take a look into that for me. I think that sounds.
Right up your alley. Yeah. Well, yeah. When I get some shots from it, I'll send you a few raws after the thing. But yeah, it's such a cool location. And then again, you walk in the other direction, walk about 2 minutes, you've got the city centre.
Yeah.
So if you do want that kind of like, and again, the variety of buildings in the centre of Manchester, it's easier for me because I'm a local, so I know I can go to the library and get an old schooly kind of Victorian look. I can go over to Deansgate. I can go to Piccadilly Gardens. Just the variety there. If you're happy moving away from con to take some pictures is amazing. And again, I like MegaCon as a brand. I feel like the vendors you've always got, I always call them the Etsy sellers. So when you go and you're buying from them, you don't feel like you're spending money with 50 million forbidden planets. Yeah, you feel like I am helping this person pay their bills, and
it's a bit more like Artist Alley that you get at MCM, but like all their vendors at MegaCon seem to be smaller businesses.
Yeah.
So it's not all just like mass-produced crap they've bought from China and they're selling out in the store. A lot of it is like handmade, or it's just got a much better feel, I think, from the vendors. I totally agree with you there.
Oh yeah, 100%. Birmingham, as with Rob, is edging it for me. I only went one day of MCM Birmingham last year. I am looking to be there all weekend this year. Again, like Rob, I'm very warm. My white balance always goes straight up. I like them red tones and stuff like that. But last year, with it being in December, I was like, I'm going to experiment here, and I'm going to try and bring out a few more of my blues. I'm going to lower my saturation and what have you. And I quite like it it might kind of like, I don't think it'll ever take over Manchester, but it's just below, because it gives me something different.
Yeah.
It's not the same edits kind of thing. Yeah. Like if you go through my thing, it's like all high saturation, very warm colours, and then you hit Birmingham and it's low saturation, and you got your blues and stuff in there, and it's just something different for me. So yeah, it's very close. It is very close, but Manchester's where my heart is. In terms of pitfalls and what have you at cons, so mine, anyone who knows me knows that I won't shut up. I will talk for England. I'm at a con and meeting a new person, I'm just stood there like, yes, scary people. So it's just get yourself out there. So the first year I had to really push myself to go around the con and just be like, just talk to one more person and ask them for that one more picture. And I ended up like pushing myself to do it the entire day. And it was just getting that confidence to go up to someone. But then even now, like, because my style isn't for everyone, again, I say to a lot of cosplayers, ask the photographer. We're all exactly the same as you. Just because we haven't asked for a shot doesn't mean that we don't want one. I'll work with anyone. Even if I don't know what you are, I will still shoot with you and try and get something from you. I assume if you've not asked, you've seen my style and it's not for you, which is fair enough. Which is where I know last week on your podcast you talked about the competition that's not a competition of a couple of cosplayers, a couple of photographers coming together, shooting the same cosplayer and just seeing where we where you come out with, that's where kind of like I talked to Tom and came up with that idea of was what I do is going to be completely different to what you three do. So it's art. There's no right and wrong answer. But if that art style doesn't fit you, then it don't fit you. But yeah, I am getting better at grabbing people. So like in Liverpool this year, Jason, Skull and Swords, was just walking past, and as I said before, I'm a big Lord of the Rings nerd, and he walked past in his Aragorn, and yeah, I was salivating at my mouth. I was like, here we go, this is what I need. And I just kind of jumped in front of him, and I was like, I need to shoot you now. And his lovely other half was there dressed as Galadriel, and literally it was a 10-minute shoot, but kind of like, yeah, one of the shots is pinned to the top of my Instagram feed because you can just see it's literally just a picture of them facing each other, but you can see the love and the affection that they've got between each other, and it was such an honor to be able to capture that. So even now, I very rarely grab people. I do occasionally, and I do need to do it more because as that shoot came out, kind of like that really showed me that I do need to grab people more often, because what I can get might be that one picture that you're like, yes, this is me, this is what I can do. The other pitfall that I find, especially with new photographers, is you're not going to know your camera. You're learning this and the other. Enjoy it. So the story I often tell is actually back at Magna. So I was shooting in the water area in the little rainfall corridor, which is obviously quite dark, and this, that, and the other. And kind of like we were waiting for the rain to fall, and there was two quite young cosplayers next to us. I just picked up their first camera, and I just saw them looking at it perplexed, and they just said to me, they were like, really sorry, but how are you taking pictures in this? What are your settings? So I started talking them through my settings and what have you, and I said, I think I had my ISO on like 1,000 or something like that. And they just looked at me and went, but we've been told your ISO needs to be on 100, otherwise you're going to pick up grain and what have you, too much noise. And I said to them, I was like, right, what's your shutter speed? And they were like, 5 seconds. And I was like, that's why you're not getting anything. You've got a shutter speed of 5 seconds. So you've got a choice. You can either stay at 100 and struggle all day, or just bump that ISO, enjoy it, get some shots. They might be grainy, they might not be, but end of the day, you're going to look at them on a screen that's that big. No one's going to notice the grain. You've had fun, you've developed, and then you're going to get a passion from it, and then you'll develop and you'll join the rest of us in spending all of our spare time looking at new lenses, looking at new bodies, and spending thousands upon thousands of pounds on new gear. And I'm very sorry that we're pushing you into this.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. So yeah, like the advice I normally tell people is, don't bother with manual until you're confident with your manual settings. Just whack it on aperture priority, whack it on auto, just something like that. Find an aperture that you like, whack it on that, and just leave the camera to do what it's going to do. You're then not focusing on what's this, what's that kind of thing. Have the basic idea to go, it's still really blurry. Oh, well, it's been setting my shutter speed to 1 second. That's probably why it's a bit blurry. So have the knowledge to know that, but you don't need the knowledge at the start to troubleshoot that. Just kind of have the knowledge to go, this is what it is, and enjoy it. Just enjoy photography for what it is, because then you'll get the occasional picture where you're like, oh, this is really good, and you'll really like it. And then following on from that, don't worry about likes, don't worry about Instagram. It's the biggest killer. The amount of pictures that I'm like, this is going to explode, this is amazing, this is my piece de resistance. And then you put it on Instagram and it's seen by 50 people and you get about 10 likes and you're like, okay, right, no, never mind.
And then the one that you post that you're like, it's all right, it's just a shot result because I want to get the shot.
It blows up.
Yeah. And that most liked picture of mine that's ever been taken is one I took of Naomi. We did like a Spider-Man boudoir shoot, but it wasn't anything. It was literally head, shoulder to there, slightly off the shoulder with her looking away, and it's on like 20,000 likes, and it's like of all my shots that I've taken of Naomi in particular, who's got a massive following, the one that really blew up is one that, it's a nice shot. It's pretty enough, but it's not like one where I go, wow, like that's the best shot I've ever taken of this particular person. And it's just for some reason, and I think that's as well, like, don't worry about Instagram because it's got nothing to do with your talent as to what goes where from a photography point of view. It's got to do with, has it hit the right thing at that very, very specific moment to blow up? Because there's no chance of really understanding it.
No, there isn't. I think to carry on from that part about the Instagram thing, for me, when it comes around to the like, there's only two factors in it for me. Do I like the photo, and does the model in the image like it? If the person who's in the photo likes it and I like it, that's all the praise that I need, because at the end of the day, they're happy with the work that I've accomplished to do with them. Any other extra likes that we get through social media or anything like that, then it's just a bonus at the end of the day. So yeah, that's my way of looking at it. I don't chase the likes or anything like that myself, but as Larry was, it's all bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And carrying on from Instagram, don't worry about your followers. Again, one of the cosplayers, the one that I was talking about before with the egg, I shoot with her all the time. Great person. Get on really well with them. I think they've got like 300, 400 followers. Really nice person. Always enjoy what I get with them. So I never, like, if you ask to shoot, I'm never gonna then look at your followers just in case and be like, oh, no, this. I think that there is that kind of like fear that kind of like, no, photographers only want the big models. They only want, especially if they've got a big following, they only want that. I don't think I've ever heard a photographer in the scene say, no, your followers aren't big enough. No. I would like to think that there isn't one in the community that would do that.
For me, if they're a cool person and easy to get on with, and they are cosplaying something that I'm into, that's all they need. I mean, one of my favourite people in the UK to shoot with at the minute is Harry from Project Cosplay UK. It's John Wick, and Cyberpunk cosplays are absolutely amazing. I think he's got like 1,500 followers, which is criminal. I absolutely love shooting with that guy. He's such an inspiration, both on a shoot and just chatting to him online.
He's just full of energy all the time. He's just he's non-stop.
Like, regularly, he'll just call me up on Instagram. What's up, mate? Oh, nothing. I just thought I'd give you a ring for a chat. He's genuinely one of the nicest guys I've met in this community.
Definitely.
I mean, for me, convention location wise, I'm not going to say Secret Con's my favourite. That'd be a bit biased. I do love Secret. I do love what we created as a team. But for me, I think this is probably obvious to some people. Volta is my favourite. What Marco has created over in Italy is an absolute inspiration, both to me as a photographer and to me as a director of a photo con in the UK. I met Marco, the owner of Volta, while I was over there, and we had a chat, and he gave me some ideas, and we're going to have a few more chats, I think, in the coming months about a few bits and pieces. But the guy is just such an inspiration. He's what he wants to do and what he thinks even normal cons should be, and normal cons should have. His aspiration is to have an area in normal big conventions that's almost like a mini Volta or a mini Secret Con, if you like, that's set up where photographers and cosplayers can go just to do the content creation and photos and cool areas like that. And I think that's similar to where, sort of I want to pitch things further down the line. I think it's something that some of the bigger cons could maybe embrace at some point, either by doing it themselves or by bringing in a third party to help them with it. When I went to the last photography show, Birmingham NEC, they had an area that was just different sets, and they were all lit really nicely. It was just an amazing place where people could go with models or people they'd met at the show, and we could go take photos. It was a really, really cool idea. But Volta, from the perspective of the locations that they have. It's a 2-day event. Yeah, 2-day event, Saturday and Sunday, that's spread out over, a reasonable distance, but from the central area of Volta Mantanova, in any direction, the average location is sort of 15-20 minute drive. There are some things a bit further afield if you want to go and shoot at some waterfalls and various other things, but they're all locations that are arranged in advance by the owners and the event organisers with the location owners. It's just such a great vibe. Everyone is so friendly. There's people from all over Europe, and people are there to, in the same way as SecretCon, really, just to create some cool art. There's no egos. Follow account really doesn't care to any of them. When I first got accepted for Volta, started arranging shoots, I was getting messages from people with 400,000 followers saying, I'd really like to shoot with you. And I shot with various people over the weekend that had got a ton of followers, and some people that had only got, like, I don't know, I think some of the shots I did with Andreas Starchild, the Kayashan shoot that I did, which I absolutely love. I think that guy's got like probably a couple thousand followers. Let's have a look if I can find him. There he is. Yeah, 1,220 followers. And just the sheer quality of his cosplays and his energy and what he put into his cosplay for the weekend was just epic. And it's great. So, that is going to hold a special place in my heart, I think, for some time. I'd love to apply for next year, but don't think I'm going to be able to go, because I think it's going to be around the time that I'm in Norway on a cruise. So unfortunately, I might not be able to apply to next year, but we'll see. As far as like full cons go, mainstream cons, I think MegaCon events in general for me, really love the vibe. It's a lot more chilled. There's always a bit more space to move around. They seem to be a bit more focused on cosplayers and photographers and just cosplay in general. I think out of all of their events, MegaCon Manchester is probably my favourite. The venue's amazing. As Gareth said, there's loads of things around that you can use for shoots. Even the con hall itself, it's quite a nice looking con hall. It's not overly busy as a rule. So I think that for me, MCM London, and I've sort of moaned about MCM London and XL to a few people on numerous occasions, but I do love it. It was the first sort of mainstream event, in fact the first cosplay event I went to, and it's still the only one where you can sort of meet and catch up with so many people in a single weekend. It's still the biggest one in the UK. XL itself, if you get to know the area and the little places around it, there are quite a few different places you can go to shoot. A lot of people who know me and know my work will know that I don't generally often shoot con shots that look like they've been shot at a con. I'd like to take the time to take a photo that's not got loads of people in the background that looks like it could have been shot anywhere on location. That's just my style. It's nothing against cons. That's just my style and the way I like to shoot. Occasionally I will if it suits the character, and you've still got the option to do that at MCM events. But for me, it's more about sort of networking, maybe creating some different type of content for your socials if you want to, and just generally catching up with friends. There aren't many cons that I can say you can go to and almost catch up with everyone in the same weekend. So yeah, that's probably my convention list. Location wise, a tough one really. I've not done a huge amount of location stuff. I've tended to do more event stuff really in the last couple of years, but I do love city-based shoots. They're always great, and I did a shoot last year at an arcade club in Blackpool that was organised by myself and a good friend, Shalimar. We hired out an old arcade in Blackpool, huge place, and for like a Harlequin shoot, and that I think was probably one of my favourite location shoots I've done to date. Just such a great vibe, really cool spot to shoot in. Biggest challenges, I think, for me as a cosplay photographer, one which is going to seem like a weird one, until I explain it, is finding the cosplayers for the shoots. And the right cosplayers for the shoots, in the sense that I'm getting on a bit now. I'm not as young as some of the guys out there. So some of the niches that I enjoy and some of the fandoms that I enjoy are a little bit older and a little bit more, not unheard of, but less popular. So, you know, the likes of your Blade Runners and Matrix and, you know, Hackers, you know, just to name a few movies that are in the genres that I like, that I would absolutely love to shoot. There aren't many cosplayers out there that cosplay those sort of characters. So sometimes it can be tough finding cosplayers that cosplay the characters that I really, really want to shoot with in my sort of up there sort of fandoms. When Cyberpunk came along, that was a breath of fresh air to me. Fantastic game. It sort of played really, really well into all of my likes and where I was starting to go with my style. So yeah, that helped a lot, and it's become a little bit more popular. And then meeting people like Terry and just sort of immersing myself into that group of people has been great. Sometimes you just gotta, you know, if there is a challenge like that, you just got to put yourself out there and start find something that's maybe a middle ground, if you like, and just immerse yourself in it. Get involved in groups, get chatting to people. It's not always easy, same as Gareth said, to just start chatting to people and go, right, hey, let's do this, or just reaching out to someone on Insta. Because the first thing you think is, well, A, they don't know me, they're going to think I'm a bloody idiot, or B, they might not even want to shoot with me. They might go, oh God, he's only got however many thousand followers. I'm not shooting with him. As we've already said, by and large, follower count doesn't matter. But in here, sometimes it does get to you, and you think, well, it does matter. That person who does that really cool cosplay isn't going to want to shoot with me. But in actual fact, they probably do. You just got to reach out to them. And what's the worst they can say? No. Another challenge is sometimes particular events is finding a location that suits the cosplay. Not every location suits every cosplay. So sometimes if there's a cosplay that I really want to shoot with, or someone or a person that I really want to shoot with, and some of the locations aren't quite right, I will just try and find somewhere a little bit generic, or do like a closer up sort of top half portrait shot, nice bokeh, nice lighting, you know, still make the shot look nice, but just make it look a little bit more generic. Sometimes you'll be lucky and you'll know the venue and you'll be able to find somewhere that sort of fits it perfectly, and sometimes you won't. But you know, sometimes you might be outside and it might be absolutely blazing sunshine, and you just have to play to sometimes you have to play to what you dealt. So whether that be location, whether that be weather, you know, remember your own strengths and play to them. I started suffering with my back with sciatica probably about 2 years ago now, and that's been a real challenge for me at cons, lugging around all the gear. So the first thing I did was buy myself a roller bag, so I don't have to carry everything all the time. And then recently, MegaCon Manchester this year, I decided I wanted some lighter lighting gear, so I bought myself a little Godox Cob LED light, and then took that as well as some RGBs, and just thought, right, well, let's strip back the weight, strip back the size of the gear. Threw myself in the deep end, didn't take any flash, thought, not quite sure how this is going to pan out, but just remembered to play to my strengths. So shot down in the car park quite a lot, where I could get away with sort of weaker powered lights, and you know, it was a lot easier on my back, and I got some great shots. So you just have to have a little bit of confidence in your own abilities and play to your strengths, really. Yeah, I think that's about it for me.
So for me, I think we can basically obvious. Well, I'd probably say my favourite convention would be going to be SecretCon.
Seeing a pattern.
Seeing a pattern here, yeah. No, I mean, I'm not just saying it because Darren's here, but obviously SecretCon for me is one of my funnest events to go to in the UK. Like Gareth's mentioned and Rob's mentioned as well. The creative flair you can get at a full-on picture con like that is very different than a conventional con, because everyone's there for a certain reason. Everyone's there to take photos. Everyone brings their A game. But also to the fact that it's there as well, I can go to the event, I can watch Gareth, I can watch Darren, I can watch Rob shoot. You can get inspiration just from watching other photographers working. Get some inspiration, get some ideas, especially if you're having a little bit of a rut. You can walk around, like you're walking around, you're seeing other people shooting these incredible shots, and then you see them in a month or two down the line once they've started editing them and start put them out on socials, and you just sit back and go, that's that shot that they were doing there, that's incredible. You see how they set it up and how they did it, and it sometimes it allows you to think a little bit outside the box that you probably get so in a bit of a rut and go, okay, I'm going to shoot in this particular shot this way all the time because it suits you, and allow yourself to get out of that comfort zone a little bit because you're watching other people work. That's how I see a secret con. I've done 3 of them now. So my first one, same as Gareth, was down at Magna. Brilliant venue. Definitely glad it's coming back, and definitely coming back for 2 days because it's a massive venue. A lot to do and a lot to take part in, a lot of walking. I think I did about 10 or 12 miles that one day in that first con. So yeah, I mean, from that point, my favorite, definitely going to spend most of my next year focusing more on Secret Con than any other cons at the moment. We're going from a conventional con. It's a bit tricky. I spend more time at MCM London, so I wouldn't say it's my favorite one to go to, but it's my main one. I'm also a bit more local to London than everyone else, so for me it's an easier one to get to, whereas if I go to Manchester, it's a 4-hour drive for me, so it's a bit further. But I went from the first one recently and I really loved it. I think MegaCon, from a con perspective, is a good vibe. It's very family friendly. I mean, I take my little one to the MegaCon ones and he absolutely loves it. But that's also because they're kid friendly in that sense. There's a lot more for kids to do. But yeah, I don't think I have a solid favorite in regards to conventional cons. I think I kind of just like all of them because I think I like the social element, catching up with people that you've made friends with over the time doing this. So for me, that's the biggest thing. So I don't think I have a favorite. I think it's favorite because people that I enjoy hanging around with who have the same sort of interests and hobbies are there, and you have a good laugh and a good crack. So I think for me, I don't necessarily have a favorite one. I think it just comes down to the people that are there. But because I've shot more at London, I generally spend most of my time in the car park. I don't like to be up in the trees or against the walls because it's very same for a lot of photographers. A lot of people around in the background. I'm a bit like Darren in that sense. I like to find somewhere a little bit different to shoot and make it a little bit nicer, I suppose, and using the backgrounds and whatnot. So if I can't quite find that area for that certain cosplayer, then I definitely look to go down the car park and spend most of my time down there, actually set up lights, play around, because I can adjust and do what I want and do a little bit different. Yeah, it might be a bit boring just having a wall in the background with some different funky colors, but sometimes it works better in some respects for certain cosplayers. Just change up the color light so your variants and changes and bits and pieces are very different. So for me, that's sort of the conventional side. Biggest challenges, I think it's going to be very much similar to a lot of people. It's going to be that social anxiety side of it. Going out to a cosplayer that you might think, oh geez, twice they're really cool. They've got a really cool outfit. I'd love to shoot them, but not having the confidence to go up to them and have a conversation with them and ask them if they would happily shoot or whatnot. So I think, especially for me, it's that social confidence to actually go up and have a conversation with someone. I haven't found that much as a problem over the last probably year. I think after the first Secret Con I went to, which I mentioned was Magna, I've noticed a little bit more popularity within my work and a lot more being noticed a little bit more by people within the community, a lot more. So for me, I feel like I kind of hit like a pattern where people actually now you notice you and you start working. Yeah, you work with same people all the time or something like that, but I get a lot more people now coming to me asking if they can shoot with me or something like that now because of taking time and working on bits and pieces, and it's starting to get out there and people are starting to see, and you get that approach from people a little bit more, or that confidence comes also again with when the model, the cosplayer is liking your work, and it does fill you with that joy of satisfaction that you've done something really good for someone. And that's part of why I like photography, is the fact that you can make someone happy with an image because you've made them look good, just the way that they are. So I think that kind of comes across a little bit, and that's the part I really enjoy, and I think I try to bring as much fun and enjoyment to shoot at cons as I can. it might be the reason why it says chaos in my back half the time with tops, because I end up having a very chaotic London MegaCon at the start of this year, which is where the creative chaos kind of came into effect from the X-Men group and a few other people. That was so if any of you are listening, then you will know exactly what I'm referring to. Overcoming challenges. I suppose some of that overcoming is having that confidence in yourself that you are good enough, that the work that you do is recognized and is good. I know I've said it a few times, there's obviously the work that you're working with the people, but my peers, like the guys that are on this podcast now and a few other people within the community, within the photographers, when I see that I get praise and like from other photographers in the work that I've done, that's also a very big thing for me as well. So seeing that come through and seeing them positive reinforcement from other people within that sort of photography industry, it also kind of gives you that little bit of fire in yourself to go, yeah, I've got this, I can do this. So overcoming that challenge of feeling like you're not good or bits and pieces like that. I mean, me, and this is something we will talk about in later episodes, is the mental health side of things. For me, the concept of the word failure is a big trigger for myself. So realizing that I am kind of good at something and being able to push past that and people are enjoying my work, for me, that is amazing. That's the biggest thrill of things that I can really say at this point. And yeah, so that's my biggest sort of challenge. From a technical perspective, I think I'm gonna have to be like lighting, flash, stuff like that. That was it's a tricky process of learning and playing around. But again, like anything else that we've done within photography, it's trial and error, playing around. Okay, what does this button do, or what does this setting do? If I link it with this, what does that do? So I think it's playing with things, and again, watching other photographers, how they're doing, asking the questions, YouTube, stuff like that, and really kind of embracing it and kind of just playing around and just seeing what works for you. I mean, that's from a technical point. Lighting is still one of my biggest struggles, but when I hit that one time where I've set the flash up right, or the right set and right power or whatever, and I get that shot and I go, oh yeah, no, that's good. That's the shit. That's I love that. Okay, let's get that one going again. And then it doesn't quite happen every time, but when it does, it's a bittersweet feeling when you conquer that technical boundary. But I say you've got to admit the mistakes to progress.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the things for me that I often forget, because I learned a lot of my lighting, my base lighting, particularly flash, at college and uni, where it was all shot on film. So there was no sort of like trial and error. Take a shot, is that right? I didn't have that luxury. It was meter it, get it right, done. If you got it wrong, then by the time you'd spent a couple of hours developing and printing the film and the shots, it was too late. So a lot of that sort of discipline for me was learned much earlier on, much older tech, and I think that has probably helped me really. Now it's a lot easier. You look at the camera, but quite a lot of shots I'll go to and I'll set up the lighting and I'll kind of just from experience just know roughly what power I'm going to need and what settings. And for anyone that's new coming into it and is like Rob said when he was scared of flash in the beginning, don't be scared of it. We're in a world now with technology where if it doesn't work, you look at the shot, you look at the settings, okay, and you learn from it, you change the settings, and then you delete the shot and just move on. And I think, if you want to sort of start out in lighting for the first time, build a relationship with someone that you can just do an out-of-con shoot with, where it doesn't matter if not a single shot works out. Just spend a couple of hours one Sunday afternoon experimenting. If you haven't got anyone in your life like that you can experiment on, get yourself a couple of Funko Pops in your house or your flat at home or in your back garden and have a play around with that, and then no one's ever going to see the pictures if they don't work out. It doesn't matter. Same as you said, Tom, we learn from our mistakes and then we correct it and we move on. It's as simple as that.
I mean, I've gone through so many shots where I've come back from a con, I looked at it and I've gone, I see what I've done here. oh
Yeah.
yeah, if I did this, and that's that whole thing, isn't it? Hindsight's great, but I never look at it and go, shit, that's crap. Why the hell did I do that? I go, what can I do to make it work? And then next time, because I know the biggest struggle I used to have was time management when I was first starting out with a cosplayer. Was I felt like I had to rush myself because I was being aware of the fact that they're taking time out to spend time with you, but they could be wanting to go to panels and do all sorts of things. And I in my head I would rush, so I would get things wrong, and then I get back home and I look at it and go, oh, I shouldn't have rushed that. So part of what I took away from that was, chill, take a deep breath, and let it go from there. I was overthinking, and I'm a massive overthinker anyway. So, but for that, I had to kind of bring that personal back to me and go, right, let's just take your time and slow down. And from my point anyway, yeah.
Just to touch on one of the other things you mentioned earlier, which was getting the praise from the other photographers. That's a big thing as well that I found. I think as well, there's been a real shift in the cosplay photography community, especially when I first started, like when I came in 2018, 2019. There was far more of a sense of competition rather than maybe community. It was like, I need to get the best shot. I need to work with this person. We're not going to talk to each other about those shots and those settings, how to make it better. And it was one of the things when me and Darren were first setting up the Discord, and that was to build more of that community, which I think over the past, especially post-COVID, since we moved from the original Facebook idea to the Discord, I think there is much more of a sense of the cosplay photography community is a community now, and we are there to support each other, and it doesn't need to be a competition. And we want to support each other. We want to big each other up. It's not about, I'm going to take this away from you, or I'm going to try and get that shot so you can't. I think that for me, and I think that's really helped me in terms of my learning experience, because as I said, like, I think apart from Darren, the rest of us have not been doing it that long in terms of cosplay photography, or maybe photography in general. So for me, getting that feedback that I've had from Darren, from Pete, from some of the more experienced photographers, and also just being able to stand and watch them as they were shooting and be like, someone like learning how to do lighting was, I spent a weekend, pretty much a whole weekend. Was it MegaCon? It was either MegaCon or MCM October. I spent a whole weekend pretty much with Pete in the car park.
I think I remember that one,
playing around with his Neo 3 Pros, which is why I've ended up with them myself. Was just like, and watching how he lights things, because I was like, the way he was lighting things was like, I want to be able to do that. I'm like, I don't know, I don't understand how you're doing this. And then just watching him move lights around and how close, like, I was like always really scared to put a light right close to somebody, because I'm like, I'm going to make them so overexposed, it's going to look horrendous. And then I was watching it, I was like, how have you got the flash that close and it not be overexposed? And it was just watching and learning and having that community. And I think that's a really nice thing that we've got going now, is that we have a great cosplay photography community where not only do we like support each other, but we're not also afraid to say when things aren't going right, like whether that's challenging people who are behaving in a way that we don't think is, sounds really elitist, that we don't think is correct. But just like this whole charging at cons, saying it, and things like that, we're not scared to have a conversation amongst ourselves and have a healthy debate, where again, I think 4, 5, 6 years ago, it would have just been like a lot of like whispers in the background rather than an open conversation. And I think that has changed a lot. And for me personally, I've met some of the best people through the cosplay photography community, both people who I work with and people who I now consider friends. Like, I think it's a great community to be a part of, and I think it's only getting better.
Yeah, definitely.
Totally
I 100% agree with that. 100%.
Right, so we're just coming 10 minutes short of the 2-hour mark, so we've been going for a while now, so we're probably going to pick pace a little bit for the next. So on to the final segments of the show then. I'll just do these as a bit of a question and answer kind of scenario. So We'll start with you, Rob. Favorite gear for cosplay photography?
So I'm a Nikon shooter, so Nikon camera, obviously. Then don't give me those looks.
You said camera.
Oh, is that obvious? Well, it's my favourite piece of gear. Lens-wise, my 50mm 1.4 Sigma art lens. It's the only lens I own. It's the only lens I shoot on. I couldn't go without it. I'd probably say now my 8200 and the Neo 3 Pros. I think lighting-wise, gear-wise, I'm quite happy with that setup. I've got everything I need for pretty much any scenario now, so I'm quite happy with it.
Are there any specific accessories or tools that you find are essential other than your camera and your lens?
No, not really. Like I don't take. I've always always been quite minimalist. I mean, I know I've got a few more lights now, but I've never really taken lots of things. And yeah, there's nothing that I find essential apart from. I'm not sure if it's an accessory or that, but reference pictures, I'd say is. They are a tool that I would say that is essential for me.
What would be your top recommendation for someone just starting out in cosplay photography?
Is talk to the person you're shooting. They know that character better than you 99 times out of 100. So there's no point going in and going, I think we should shoot it this way when you don't really understand the character. Have a conversation, find out about the character, reference pictures, and then have fun.
And what would you say are the common gear mistakes or pitfalls that beginners should avoid?
Maybe jumping too far forward with your gear too early. Like trying to start off jumping in with, when you've never done it, trying to shoot on like a Z9, like a really high-end expensive camera. Learn on something that's easy to use, and then build your way.
And lastly, one bit of gear that you could not do without in your kit.
Probably, I would say, I've only had them for about a month or so, but the Neo 3 Pros, just because I can use, if I don't want to take the big 8200 out and set it up, the Neo 3 Pro, like for a walk around standard flash, it works fine, and you've got the LED functions on it as well.
Okay, Gareth, over to you. Favourite gear for cosplay photography?
Favourite gear? Unlike you, I'm still quite new, so all of my gear's quite basic. Like literally, my flash is just bog standard speed flash. I've got two of these, and that's all I use. I don't have fancy flashes or anything like that. So yeah, my favourite piece of gear, like Rob, 50mm at 1.8. Although I am Canon, so it's a Canon 50mm 1.8. And yeah, Tom's trying to swap me over to the 24-70. It's starting to edge that way, but I don't think I'll ever be able to move away from that prime. The 24-70 goes on when I'm being lazy and I can't be bothered moving backwards and forwards.
Nice.
But yeah, 50mm all the way.
Nice.
I'm a prime hop.
Any specific accessories or tools that you find or think are essential?
Other than cigarettes? Again, it's whatever gear you're comfortable with. So your lens of choice. Again, the different ranges of strap. It's a weird one that I think most people look over. But I've got a kind of like over the shoulder one because I'm very handsome when I'm describing poses and stuff like that. And he just gets it out of the way. I know it's not going to drop to the floor or anything. Some people like a little wrist strap, little clips on the belt and stuff like that. So yeah, just because the strap comes with it, experiment with different straps. You'll find it'll bring out different things in your photography and it'll make you comfortable.
What would be your top recommendations for someone just starting out?
Like we said before, just enjoy. There's no point listening to them Instagram reels. They're like, if you're shooting in this lighting, these are your settings. That doesn't work. There is not a one size fits all model. Enjoy it. If you need to bump up that ISO, bump up that ISO. Don't listen to people. And again, talk to people. We touched on it before. Everyone in the community is so nice. I've recently had a cosplayer who's bought a new camera and they're experimenting with it. And I said, next time we're at a con together, take mine, have a go with it, see what you enjoy about it, see what you don't enjoy about it. If you got any questions about settings, I can talk to you about that. Just talk to other people and don't be too shy.
And again, any common gear mistakes or pitfalls you feel beginners should avoid?
Just same again, just kind of like trying to do the one size fits all kind of like again, watch YouTube videos on how to pose people and what have you. When you're starting off, end of the day, your camera designed to go on auto. Is it going to be the best settings in the world for it? It might be, might not be. You're having a chance. But again, a lot of the picture is going to be your composition, the way the models posing and stuff like that. Set it to auto, enjoy yourself, and focus on watch some YouTube videos on composition. Enjoy that first and foremost, and then learn your manual and what have you.
And lastly, the one bit of gear that you couldn't do without.
My 50mm. I'm sorry, Tom. My 50mm. It's my little baby. Yeah, I will end up with a 1.4 at some point. Maybe a new body first, but I'm going to stick to that 50.
So for me, favorite gear for cosplay photography. I think for me, it's a little bit niche. My favorite is this little beauty, which is the Sure 50mm anamorphic. So if ever you see any shots of mine that have got a really nice sort of blue flare going across, or anything that's sort of like in a 16:9 ratio, 9 times out of 10 I will have shot it with that. It's just got a beautiful cinematic feel to it and look to it. Not the easiest lens to use. It's manual aperture, manual focus, so it can be a little bit tricky, and it shoots with a 1.33 times squeeze. So when you shoot in it and you look at the back of the camera shot, everything looks sort of squashed up. So you kind of have to bear that in mind. But once it's all sorted out in post, the aesthetic you get from it is just stunning. And also my RGB lights. So my Rotor Light Neo 3 Pro, and my other little RGB lights. Probably, I just love them. It fits my style. You can fit them in my pocket. My 50mm Sigma f1.4 is another one. That's probably my go-to. That spends the majority of the time on my camera. Favorite overall lens, I think, is going to be the Sigma 85. Just a stunningly sharp lens. Any specific accessories and tools you find are essential? I know Gareth mentioned camera strap. Yeah, I run with a couple of Peak Design straps. One that I use on my main camera, one that I use on my film camera. Yeah, it's just get a strap that works for you, that's comfortable. Peak Design strap for me, it can be clipped on and off nice and easy, put in and out the bag, or if I do ever need to take it off, it's nice and quick and simple. It's a nice wide strap, so it's nice and comfy. It's long enough and very quick and easy to adjust with the sliders, so I tend to use it a bit more of a sling as well, because I chuck my camera behind my back when I'm shooting. So yeah, decent strap is good. One of the biggest tips I'll give for anyone to put in the camera bag is a lens cloth. The amount of times I've taken shots over the years and a bit of light's reflected off some dust or dirt on the front of the lens, and I'm like, shit. Or it's been covered in dust from a shoot, and I'm like, bugger. Yeah, so a good quality microfiber lens cloth, or I've got a really nice Sigma lens cloth that the Sigma rep gave to me a couple of years ago at Cos Expo, which is just great. Top recommendations for someone just starting out: just have fun, really. Don't take it or yourself too seriously. Just enjoy it. We're all just a bunch of nerds and geeks just having fun and taking photos of people playing dress up. It's very unlikely any of us are going to get famous from this. We're doing it for fun. We're doing it because we enjoy it. So just have fun, play around, and take the shots that are best for you. Mistakes and pitfalls for beginners to avoid. First one for me really is don't fall down the route of thinking that you have to have all the best gear. Similar to what Rob said, stick to gear that's within your budget, and you think you're going to be able to handle. If you're not confident with lighting straight away, shoot natural light for a while till we'll get used to it. You don't have to have the most expensive camera, the most expensive lens. You can make the best of what you've got and what you can afford. That's, probably one of the best bits of advice that I can give. The other one would be, don't think that you're going to an event and that you have to shoot with every single person. We've probably all done it when we first started going to events. We run ourselves ragged for 8-10 hours a day, shooting every single person that stops by. No breaks, no toilet breaks, no lunches, no drinks. And by the end of it, you're drained, you're knackered, you're wishing that someone had just run you over with a bus. And you've got 5,000 shots from your first day, kind of think, my God, I've got to go through all these. You know, it can be good in the beginning whilst you're finding what you like and dislike to shoot with more people to get a feel for your own style and what you like. But don't feel that you have to. It is okay to say no to someone. You know, you don't need to give a reason. And that's the same for cosplayers as well. You know, if a cosplayer says no to a shoot, don't take it to heart. There might be a million and one reasons why they don't want to shoot with you. So take it on the chin, move on to the next one. One bit of gear that I couldn't do without, I want to cheat and say there's 2 bits of gear. One is my 50mm. It's just such a versatile lens, especially on full frame. And the second one is my roller bag. It was a game changer. The first time I bought a roller bag was an absolute game changer. I could just carry much more gear around. I could put drinks on top of it, light stands on the side of it, and not have to lug all these tons of different bits and bags on my back and shoulder. Yeah, absolute game changer. So yeah, that was probably the one for me. Switch, how about you? Favorite gear?
Probably like gonna follow the trend here with you guys, but it's definitely my 2470, which yes, I have been trying to push Gareth down that route, but I like the versatility of it. If I need to get in nice and close, I can. If I want a little bit of a distance away from it, can without too much moving around. But for me, it works perfectly. I love it. It's a bit of kit I use just solidly on my camera most of the time. Don't get me wrong, I do love the 50 as well. I will probably do an upgrade to a Sigma 50 at some point when I can justify it and also afford it. So yeah, that would be that one. Specific accessories or tools, I would definitely say it's my Peak Design sling, very much like similar to what Darren was saying. It's probably one of the best purchases I think I've ever bought for my camera, because I was saying it's quick, it's easy, got quick releases on it, got the nice little clips on it. So even if you want to shoot and you don't need your sling, for example, it's not on your camera, so it's not taking up space or swinging around. So for me, it's definitely my strap, because it's very versatile. It's very useful in that case. What would be recommendations for someone starting out? Like everyone else said, enjoy it, have fun, play. There's no right or wrong. Learn, basically just play around with it and learn from mistakes, because they're not mistakes, they're just bits and pieces. And I've said it before earlier on this podcast anyway. So for me, I just say, just enjoy it. If you enjoy it, then that's all that really matters from that point of view. Also, I'm going to say something for starting out as well. Don't be, and I know it's going to be harder to do in person, like than what it sounds like. So don't feel ashamed to go up to another photographer and ask them questions.
Yeah,
Feel good that you can go, okay, I've seen you working, I've got a couple of questions, do you mind me asking? Because 9 times out of 10, a lot of the photographers in the cosplay community will have the time for you and happily answer your questions, or even show you by the fact that doing a shoot with a cosplayer, and you can watch and you can learn so much by watching other photographers' work. So don't feel like you can't ask another photographer for help or a question. So that's probably my best thing to say, is just ask. It doesn't even need to be in person. You can do it over social media if that feels more comfortable. I know for myself, if you feel want to ask, and I'm pretty sure with a lot of the guys here, if you just send us a DM and asking questions, it's not an issue, especially for me anyway.
Fine.
Or I know that one. I asked Darren a lot of questions when I first started with flashes and lights.
I mean, that's how me and Tom started talking. We were asking each other questions about cameras and what have you, because we're camera geeks and we'll talk about cameras for hours on end. And it's developed into, I don't think there's a day goes by where I don't talk to Tom. But yeah, it all just started with a random message on Instagram going, hey, I've seen this in your photography. How have you done that? And
Yeah, it was very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've basically been asked the same questions ever since.
Yeah.
Hey, so are there any common gear mistakes or pitfalls for beginners to avoid? Like I said, like everyone said, just play, be comfortable with what you've got, but start off simple. They don't need to buy the best gear. If you've got a phone, a lot of modern phones now have a lot of these tools that you can do, and then they do a lot of them automatically, but you can also go into your settings and change it up so you can play around with it in manual mode. So if you've got a camera on your phone and you want to take photos, it's a good place to start because you can learn little bits from that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I took my phone. I went to a gig last year. Didn't have my camera, wish I did, but I also didn't want to break it in the mosh pit, so I had my phone. I took some photos of that, and I came home, edited it on my phone or edit it on the computer, and you know what? They still look good. Then they could be better if I took my camera, but you can still play around with your phone as well. Phone cameras are a lot better than what they used to be. But yes, if you're getting started,
And you can actually get lenses that clip onto them
exactly.
as well. Yeah.
So I would probably say there as well, just start off simple. Everyone's got a camera on their phone these days, so by all means, have a play on that. What's one bit of gear you not do without? I think it's gonna be the same. It's gonna be 2 bits of gear. I have a ridiculously big roller bag that I shove literally all my kit in, and it sits in the back of my car for conventions. And I take out bits and pieces as and when I need it. I do probably need to downsize my bag so I can have a little bag like Darren does rolling around. More so I can take a bit more kit with me. But I'd probably say that, and I'm a sucker for lights. I love my LED lights. It just adds a little bit of extra. For me, it adds a little bit extra for my style of shooting into a shot, so it's not just a background or natural light or something like that. So for me, I like to play around with colored lights. One day I will get, like everyone else has, like Rob and Darren, with the rotors, with the neon 3s. I'll definitely be getting up there at some point. But yeah, again, that's a prime example. You don't need to start out with that light because that light set is expensive. It's a good bit of kit, but there are other bits of kit out there from a light perspective that are good, and they will do the job for a lot less of the price. So if you are starting, you don't need to go with the fancy light, and there are other alternatives out there that you can start with to play around with it. And then when you get used to it, then look at getting bits of kit that can enhance it more. But that's because your understanding's changed, not because of the value of the kit.
That brings us on quite nicely to the next bit. So we've got a whole section on tips and tricks for capturing the best cosplay shots. I'm going to skip some of it out and just concentrate on the lighting aspects, which what Thomas has said takes us nicely into this. So Rob, first of all, what would you say are your favourite lighting setups and or techniques for cosplay photography?
I think it all depends really on the location. I'm like, for going, obviously, the parlor shot, that was quite simple, just one light to light the subject, and then using the natural light, so blending the natural light and the flash so that they work naturally together has always been my go-to. Where I've only really just started experimenting with the use of LEDs a little bit more for backlighting and things like that. So, but for me, I'm very much a sucker of a flash to light the subject and blending that in with the natural light that you've got.
And how do you work and deal with the often unpredictable lighting conditions at cons?
Run away screaming.
Good answer.
I mean, it's not far from the truth.
That, folks, is all good.
I'll generally do one or two things. One is shoot outside, where the again, that I'm used to it. I know how to deal with that natural light setting. Or I'll find an area that's a little bit quieter, and take somebody that I know down into that area where the lighting maybe is a little bit difficult, and practice with them before I start working with people maybe that I don't know as well. So I can play around, spend a little bit of extra time understanding what's going to work and what's not going to work before, so that person, they don't mind having 75 shots of them dancing around to random music as I'm trying to work out like whether to change my aperture, change the power of my lights, I would always say grab one
Cool.
of your mates, go and stand in a corner and be like, what's going to work for this lighting environment before I start grabbing people that maybe I don't know quite as well.
Okay, Gareth, your favourite lighting setups and or technique?
So yeah, I'm probably not the best one for this section because, like I said, I've literally just got two speed flashes.
I mean,
So
this works. This works
yeah.
for I mean, even natural light is still considered a lighting setup and technique.
God,
So even if you're using natural light.
Yeah. So again, I tend to just, like Rob was saying, I shoot outside quite a lot, so I'll just have one either on the top of my camera, or I'll have a little softbox lighting them. And again, so I've started experimenting. Like you keep saying, you don't need to spend all the money that you have on camera stuff. So again, I don't have coloured lighting, but what I do have is I went to a little craft shop and I bought a load of coloured plastic sheets and I got a load of elastic bands, and that's how I get my coloured lighting. I think it cost me under a tenner. Happy days. I turned my speed light into coloured lighting. It does me for the time being. When it stops doing what I want it to do, I'll get some coloured lighting. But until then, that'll do. Little trick.
And how about you? How do you deal with the unpredictable lighting conditions at cons at times?
Again, because I don't use much flash. I'm like Rob. I'll go outside. Like I said, I started in landscape photography where you don't really do flash. The lighting you have outside is the lighting you have. So again, I'll do that. I'll go outside. I'll possibly bring one of my speed lights. But again, depending on how bright it is outside, depends on whether I can actually use that flash or not. But yeah, it's just knowing. Do a little Google search of natural lighting. What angle should I have the person at and what have you? Because obviously, if you have the sun right behind them, it's just going to blow out your background. So yeah, just turn your model the trusted 45-degree angle and what have you like that.
For me, lighting setups and techniques, I think I have kind of two opposing ends of the scale. For me, it's either nice and simple single flash with a softbox, or it's some ridiculously complicated 8, 10 or 12 light setup with RGBs and all singing, all dancing. I don't really tend to have any sort of middle ground. But yeah, I do love the simplicity of a single flash. I've got a Godox AD300 Pro, which I absolutely love for that. My go-to softbox is the native mount AD65S softbox. It just packs down nice and small. It's a nice size that it's controllable. Doesn't take up a huge amount of space either in the side of a bag or at an event really. And it's powerful enough, give or take, to shoot in really bright sunlight. So I've shot outside in Italy, blazing sunshine, on full power, and still been able to stick to my style, which is generally sort of underexpose the main setting and then dial in flash to give the look that I want. The RGB side of things is generally I'll tend to use either a single flash, probably the AD100, on a really low power setting, and then I'll have probably 6, 8 or 10 other smaller RGB panels, including the rotor light as well, sort of scattered around in key locations to create a coloured atmosphere. Particularly do that for my sort of cyberpunk style stuff. How do I overcome the unpredictable lighting conditions at cons? Again, it really depends on where it is, whether I'm shooting indoors or outdoors. If it's outdoors, the weather's constantly changing. My go-to is just use flash. I can, set it for the ambient conditions with exposure and just dial up or down the amount of flash that I want to lift the subject from the background really. Indoors, again, it's probably a similar process. Either use flash, or if I'm indoors and we're in an area where you can't really use flash, like maybe inside con hall, it would generally be to either handheld Rotolight Neo 3 myself, or get a friend or someone I'm walking through the con hall with and get the Rotolight on a grip and just sort of dial in a bit of ambient light, and again just underexpose the background a little bit just to reduce the changing ambient lighting conditions. How about you, Switch?
God, I think I'm very similar in that sense with regards to lighting. What do I like? I use the Velox 300 Pro, depending if I'm outside or inside, or depending on the softbox that I'm using. I do quite like the standard one that comes with it, which is the big one. But I generally only really use that when I have more space and there's not a lot of people around. If I'm going outside for a con and there's a load of people, I generally use the smaller softbox just because it doesn't use up as much space and it's easier to get around without knocking into anyone, and it does the job I need to, especially outside. Again, vice versa, if I'm outside, predominantly just use one flash. But if I'm indoors in the sort of the con area, depending on where I'm at, if I'm inside the venue, then I'll probably won't use anything. I'll probably just try and adjust my settings on my camera to make it work for me based off the lighting inside, and just try and do what I can through the settings on the camera and just make it work. But I have been known to mostly spend most of my time in the car park, so I will go a bit more excessive. I'll use 2 flashes sometimes, depending. And then I've got my 2 newer 660 LED lights, which are the ones that are behind me at the moment, lighting up the back of my room. And I'll put a bit of color in there and change up the background through with a bit of color. But yeah, I mean, it just varies depending on the location that I'm shooting in or where I'm shooting, depending on what I do. If it's more of a dark place, then I'll tend to go a bit crazier and have flash and LED lights. But if I'm outside, then I'll just focus with one with a flash or use natural light.
Right. We had a little bit of an audience Q&A. So we'll probably take these in turn or just sort of scatter these around. So we had one from Man in Black Photography and Marcus. How did you get into cosplay photography? I think we've all pretty much answered that one throughout the show, but thank you, Marcus, for sending that one in. That's a great question. Do you want to read the next one out, Tom?
I'm going to butcher names because I'm terrible with it, so I'll let Darren say the name and I'll read the question. But the question was, what's the best thing a cosplayer can do to help a talk? Now, excellent question.
Good one, actually.
It's going to be, I mean, anyone else in the podcast can chip in at any point. Best thing they can do is, obviously, if you know,
Patient.
simple as, if you know your character, then you should know the poses that you want. It's just working with the photographer as well, because there could be a chance that not all of us are going to know that character. So if you know it, brilliant. If not, then we can always spend a bit of time together using Pinterest, Google, whatever. As long as you've got signal to look at some reference points and Rob.
Never be afraid as well to come up with some ideas of your own to put to the photographer. You know, and another tip for cosplayers is sometimes we might come up with some really like batshit crazy ideas, normally for a reason, within reason, providing it's not dodgy. Go along with it. Chances are something pretty cool will come of it. I think that one was from Hype.
Underscore.
IDH cosplay.
I'd agree with like bring reference pictures. Also bring a friend to hold the light stand for us because we'll generally forget somebody. So we always need somebody to hold the light stand.
And you know, someone to come along with them will help them at ease as well. Particularly,
that was the answer to that. Bring a friend is one of the biggest things. Is that I think, like whether it's a chaperone or even if it's somebody that you've worked with 100 times, bring somebody else that you can just bounce off, because you never know what that idea that other person's going to have, who's looking from the outside, who's not actually involved in taking the picture, will go, actually, if you move slightly this way, and you're like, that's a great idea.
I mean, I've had some really amazing ideas from people who have actually just been, who are just friends who've come along and spectated, because they're not the ones taking the photo, and they're not posing, so they look at it in a slightly different way from their perspective. So sometimes it can be some really good ones. But I know from my point of view, especially at a con on a busy day, if you're shooting with God knows how many people throughout the day, you're on hour 6 of the day shooting, sometimes that pose just does not come into the head, and you just need that little bit of extra inspiration and support from the cosplayer sometimes, just to re-jog our brains, because we've probably looked at about 50,000 different poses in the last several hours. So there's that one. But like Darren said, if there's a batshit crazy idea within reason, there's normally a reason for it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, there's no harm in trying, because sometimes them batshit crazy ideas are the ones that
And don't be afraid to come up with your own batshit crazy ideas. Either.
Definitely, don't be scared to ask.
Next question in from just Steph K. Flash settings and advice on what settings to use outside versus inside.
I think that, again, is a trial and error thing. Depends on the inside and outside location. When I first started doing Flash, I was like, took this really amazing shot inside using Flash, went to the different inside location, set everything up exactly the same, and it looked absolutely horrendous. And so it is 100% that trial and error. See what works in the location you're in.
I think what I'd say normally is start off with your ISO as low as you can go as a base. Again, it all depends on what the weather's like outside. You might be shooting on settings lower outside than you are inside, and vice versa, depending on the weather. But start off at around maybe 4 or 500ths of a second, or maybe slightly less on a sort of medium flash power as a base for average conditions. And then you're sort of like middle ground. If it's too bright, you can dial it down. If it's too dark, you can dial it up and go from there. But, constantly just get your cosplayer to just muck around, mess around, and do a test shot.
I was going to say, yeah,
what do I need
do
to
test
do
shots
there?
and just get them to do funny shit for 10 minutes.
Exactly. I've had some great test shots over the years. There's a couple of cosplayers that it's almost like a thing now. We'll, even if we don't need to do a test shot, we'll do a lighting test shot and they'll pull a funny face or, a funny pose or something. It's almost like how we start our shoots now. It's great fun. Do you want to read the next one, Switch?
Sure. So Sure Shots Cosplay. Attending conventions, cosplay players are likely to attend. Attending conventions, cosplayers are likely to attend, and what kit to bring. So I believe that's which are the best conventions for cosplayers. So I think this is a question a bit similar to like Monopoly, MegaCon, and MCM. In that sense, which ones are better to have cosplayers?
Yeah, again, I think we've talked about that quite a lot, haven't we? So obviously events like MegaCon, SecretCon tend to be the more cosplay focused ones, and even some of your smaller local cons now I think are starting to embrace
I
cosplay
think
more.
with that one, as the community is getting bigger, there are a lot of cosplayers potentially in like closer to your areas that go to the more local ones, and then they're starting to cosplay a lot more.
And also as well, money's getting tight for people. People can't always afford to attend the bigger cons, and so they're tending to turn to some of the smaller cons now. So don't be afraid to reach out to some of your smaller cons. I think what kit to bring really depends on sort of where it is. Whether you're going to have anyone to hold your light stands, whether they'll even allow you to use light stands, what kit are you comfortable with? But if in doubt, there's a lot to be said for just taking your camera and a single lens. Sometimes the simplest setup can be the best setup, and that is better than not taking a camera at all. So if you're not sure, maybe just take a camera and a couple of lenses, maybe a light that you can handhold or stick on top of your camera, worst case scenario. Sometimes just
because to add on that one, I know sometimes you have the issues with if you're going into convention, you can't necessarily take a lot of stuff. So the minimal you can do it,
which sense.
You don't want to have lighting stands and everything else around. So if you're going into the convention to shoot, I would probably recommend, like I was saying, a camera, a lens. I mean, you can have an on-camera flash, a bit like what Gareth's got there. Have something like that, or something handheld, something portable. If you're shooting outside, like in a different location, then I would recommend something that you're able to carry around with you all day, and it's not going to impact you.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. It's like you don't need to take a lot.
No.
One thing I would like is something that you mentioned Switch earlier, which was like you obviously store some gear in your car for as and when you need it. Same with like if you're don't drive like me, I quite like getting a hotel that's near to the convention as well, so that if I don't necessarily want to take everything with me, but if I go and I'm like, actually, I want more, I can go back and get more. And same as if I take more and I'm like, I'm not going to use any of this, I can go and drop it off, so I'm not carrying around all my gear all day. So
yeah, exactly. So the next question then from Blackheart Cos, advice for people wanting to tog cosplay. I think we've probably covered that at length. So just have fun, reach out to people, don't be afraid to drop people a message or approach people at an event. I think probably the rest of that we've covered during the show. Again, thank you for your question.
The only thing I'd add to that is something that I didn't do in my first convention that I've learned, and it's a game changer. Show them the back of the camera.
That's a great shout.
Yeah, your cosplayer might have something they're insecure about, and they might be like, I don't like that. Can you do something about
also,
that?
as well, if it's someone that you've not shot with before, it can help to build their confidence in shooting with you. You know, first couple of shots, show them. It can really help if they go, oh, wow, that's amazing. It can really help to settle the shoot down. Or if they go, oh, actually, that's great. Could we just try that? And that whole process just triggers off from there.
Yeah,
So
it comes
that's
down
actually
to
a
that
great
sort of
piece of advice.
collaborative feel of it. I know I do it naturally. I basically do a series of shoots and I go back and I'm like, okay, how's this? This is what we're looking at. And you can either get them go really nervous beforehand, before shooting, like really scared of it. And then all of a sudden you're showing that back of that camera and you can see almost that light in their eyes light up and they're going, oh shit, that's me. Oh, I can do this.
Yeah.
I would also add on to that, don't be scared about showing emotion. Like, when I first started shooting, I'd be like, I'm taking a picture, I'm the photographer. But then now, if I take a good shot, I'm very clear. I'm like, I love this shot. And like, some of my friends are like, you made your happy sound when you get that shot that you really love. And you're like, ooh. And you try not to like jump up and down on the spot, but you're like, I nailed that shot. And that kind of excitement kind of like, I think, helps build a relationship that you're as excited for this process as the cosplayer is. Because sometimes it can be like, I've heard it from other cosplayers are like, oh, it's just a conveyor belt. You have people come in, you take a shot. But if you're kind of like showing that emotion that you're happy with what you're getting from the shoot as well, it kind of relaxes them because they're like, oh, we're doing this together. It's not just I'm another person in your conveyor belt of I'm taking a picture, taking a picture, going. You're like, it's a collaborative process.
Cool. Right, we're going to finish off with one last question, and we'll keep this nice and quick fire because we've just tipped the 2.5 hour mark, and most people have probably fell asleep by now.
Gareth's one of them.
But the last question from a Renegade Prof: what are your favourite type of cosplays to shoot? So, Rob, start with you.
Fantasy is my biggest one. Shocking. And I'm going to have to say, like, Harley Quinn shoots, just because it's what I kind of started out on. Like, I love the fact that you can just get away with whatever the hell you want to do in a Harley Quinn shoot. You can just go absolutely batshit crazy, and it just works. So,
Cool.
Fantasy and Harley Quinn shoot.
Gareth?
Similar to Rob, fantasy, mainly Lord of the Rings. DC, I'm a big DC fan, but mainly people who put the energy in. I've got energy for days. You probably can't tell at the moment. But yeah, I can be there for 8 hours. If you bring energy, I'll bring energy back. And they're the shoots. You could be doing something that I have no idea about. Bring energy. Just bring energy.
For me, Cyberpunk is the obvious one. It's a big love of mine. It fits my aesthetic. But also anything else that kind of fits that vibe. So Arcane, League of Legends, Blade Runner, anything sort of sci-fi, dystopian, Mad Max, that kind of vibe, really. That's kind of where I'm at. And lastly, Switch, yourself?
It seems to vary depending on the mood I'm in at the time. But my main go-to is I'm a massive fan of someone who's mixed genres. So we're talking, say, like take Marvel and Star Wars, and someone's mashed that together and made their own sort of mashup because it's different. I love it.
They're kind of like the Sith princesses that did.
Yeah, exactly. So that sort of stuff I really like because you're taking two genres and you're mashing it together. It's different. Not everyone always does it. Being a massive Marvel fan, I did used to like taking a lot of Marvel-related shots, but it then became very Marvel fatigue from a shooting point because you design so many Black Widows and all that sort of stuff to shoot. So yeah, I'm very much like, if someone brings in something they embody or they enjoy doing, then I kind of can get down with that side of things. But yeah, I'm definitely someone that likes sort of an OG character or a bit of a mixture of a different style, really. But also a bit partial to anything a bit crazy like a Harley as well occasionally, because you can just go a little bit more batshit.
I think Harley's a bit of a a go-to love for the majority of people these days. It's just got the character in itself and the way people do mashups, and it's vast. And I love it. Yeah.
But yeah, I think just anyone that's put a bit of a creative spin to something for me is cool. Is what I like.
Okay. Well, guys, I think that brings us to the end of our show. A massive thanks goes out to our two guests, which is Rob, which is BHC Photography. Instagram is b.h.c.photography. And Gareth, Bigfoot Photos 1912. If you don't already, head over to their Instas and check them out. You'll see some awesome stuff. We also have my co-host here, Switch_GN. I'm sure you're all following him, but if you're not,
What's wrong with you?
please head over and check him out. And lastly, myself, iPhoto UK. And if you want to check our socials out, on Instagram, we're cosplaytog.all.things.nerdy. YouTube is at cosplaytogs and all things nerdy, and Spotify cosplay, togs and all things nerdy, and TikTok cosplaytogs.all.t. So I think that pretty much wraps it up. We'll be looking to record our second show next week, which is quite an interesting topic, one that's close to both of our hearts, which is about con safety and etiquette. Quite a big topic that's had some various things going on in the community over the last few years, and it's always at the forefront. It's always talked about, but we've got a couple of amazing guests who are very well renowned within the cosplay community, one photographer and one cosplayer. And yeah, we'll be sharing our thoughts and tips on how to stay safe and what to do and what not to do while you're at a con. So hopefully you'll tune into that. But for this show, thanks very much for listening, and hopefully you didn't fall asleep. Over to Rob. You got any final words before we go?
No, just enjoy yourselves when you're at cons, when you're shooting out of cons. Just and build relationships with people. Find those people that bring out your creative side and work them to.
And Gareth, any final words?
No, not really. Same as Rob. Enjoy yourself. Bring the energy. Always come and say hi. Come and ask advice. We're all friendly faces here.
Cool. And I'll let you finish us off with it.
Yeah, no worries. So I want to say a massive thanks to our two guests today on the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you guys here for the first full episode. And as always, me and Darren are also grateful if you've got to this part of the show and you're still listening. I think I'm just going to sign us off with just let the chaos reign half the time or all the time at a convention. And yeah, stay safe and have a good one.
Thanks, guys.